Sometimes when we start to practice mindfulness, it seems like our suffering increases. That can happen. And really it's actually not increasing, we're just uncovering something that's already there. And this is a common experience, and we keep doing this over and over again. So that's why there might be a habit for us to seek distraction in some way. We try to distract ourselves from that nagging, not quite rightness that is deep down inside, that is there. It's always there. And when we're mindful, then we see it. We start to see it a bit more clearly. And that's good, because then that's the brilliance of the Buddha talking about mindfulness of the body, is when we experience that suffering in the mind, but then it correlates in the body as well. So the body and mind are connected in this way, so we look at mindfulness of the body. So for example, for myself, when I experience anxiety, it's generally at the heart center, and then there might be a shortness of breath. The breath gets slightly shorter, and then looking at the body and actually consciously calming the body can be very, very helpful for that. Or like a strong emotion might be felt in the head or the face or the eyes, and then consciously calming those things can be very helpful. That's why mindfulness of the body is so important. So when we keep these things going, if we keep the moods and emotions, particularly negative emotions, if we keep them going, what we're doing is we're not being mindful of the body, but we're actually keeping those sankharas going, we're generating them, and we're looking at it in a way that we're actually keeping it going, we're actually generating it, and we're adding thoughts to it. This is the Thai translation of papancha. Papancha we translate as mental proliferation, but the Thai translation is prung dang, which means to spice up. So we could say it's like adding on. So we experience a mood or an emotion, and then we add on to it and we spice it up. We make it stronger. We keep it going. But mindfulness of the body is that which just puts the brakes on it, and it really disbands it. It'll just dissolve, and it'll be like it wasn't even there. Remember, that's just that all-important teaching that Ajahn Sona gave me when I was asking him about how to be mindful of anger, and he gave me the answer that if you're mindful, there's not anger. So mindfulness and anger don't coexist together. And I didn't believe him at the time and thought, no, he's not right about that. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But later on, investigating it, I could see how when I was quote unquote mindful of anger, when I thought I was being mindful of anger, what I was doing was I was spicing it up, I was adding on to it, I was keeping it going, I was generating it through. I thought I was just looking at it, but actually I was generating it and adding moods and emotions to it and keeping it going. And then when I made that radical shift of being able to just be mindful of the body and see where it was felt in the body, then those thoughts, they just dissolve on their own pretty quickly. So this is very important to come back to mindfulness of the body. Breathing too, sometimes we just have to take a deep breath. So if, say, somebody says something unpleasant to us, or we have an unpleasant experience, or even somebody does something unjust to us or unwarranted out of some sort of misunderstanding or whatever, then we can actually take a deep breath, come back to the body in that moment, and actually say, well, it doesn't have to be logical, it doesn't have to make sense, but what I have to do, what my duty is to not react with aversion. So at least I'm empowered, I can empower myself to do that, and we can always do that through all of our interactions through the day. But it's very difficult because that's not the habit yet. We have to make that the habit. That has to be the new wholesome habit. But generally the habit is to react and say, well, what you're saying doesn't make any sense. What you're saying isn't logical. And my mind does that all the time. what are you talking about? And but coming back to the feeling in the body, saying, okay, this is where I have to practice, and this is a good opportunity for practice. One takeaway I had from Ajahn Sake being here is he was always, anytime I would see something difficult happen to him, or he would have some sort of situation which I would be impressed with how he acted in it, and he would always say, well, that was just a good opportunity for practice. So actually, every moment is a good opportunity for practice. So whether it's the work period or the afternoon time and we're feeling a bit tired or worn out. Shay showed up spontaneously yesterday. So Shay had his 3-day visit previously, and when he came for that, he brought me a little sniffer thing that he had made. He's getting into aromatherapies. He's 6. He's getting into making aromatherapies, and he had this little sniffer thing. It was like lavender, orange oil, and tea tree oil, and it said meditation time on it, and it was all misspelled and like very blocky handwriting, but it was quite cute. It said meditation time. I think it said medation time. And then yesterday when he showed up, he had another one for me, and it was a different mix. It was a bit more kind of like, I think he decided to like ramp up the orange oil and put a bit less lavender in it, and it was called Exhaust. So I figured that what his intention was this is what you do when you're exhausted. You can take this one. You take this one when you meditate, and take this one when you're exhausted. But very, very thoughtful. That's kind of an aside. But we just need to know what to do at the right time, and develop all these skillful means. So read that for reflection this morning.